Hi, this is the Filmway channel. This is the mini-series The Narrow Road to the Deep North. The medic ends up in Japanese captivity, where, in conditions of widespread unsanitary conditions of hunger and death, he and other prisoners of war build the Thai-Burman Railway, also known as the Death Road. The series begins in 1941 Syria. A platoon of soldiers, including military medic Dorigo Evans, searching the area, finds dead civilians. Noticing the surviving boy, the soldiers take him with them. At a rest stop, while they chat among themselves, one of the soldiers departs to look after the foundling. An explosion is heard. Someone stepped on a landmine. Dorigo gives the soldier first aid, but he dies in his arms. Nearby, colleagues find the body of a boy who died from the explosion. The story shifts to 1989 Australia. An elderly Dorigo is giving an interview to a journalist on the eve of the release of a book about the war, with illustrations by his colleague, Guy Hendricks, nicknamed Rabbit. The disrespectful tone of the young girl, who is too biased against the events of those days and openly sympathizes with the Japanese side, annoys the veteran. After the interview, Dorigo's wife convinces him to try talking to the journalist again, but without outright insults. This is useful for promoting the book. He agrees. And in the evening, while working on his memoirs, he again plunges into memories. In 1940, the young Dorigo, even before being sent to the front, visits the house of his girlfriend Ella's rich parents. She worries about the upcoming war, but the guy reassures her that he is more a medic than a soldier. Dorigo then goes to his uncle Keith Mulvaney, the owner of the pub. Not finding him in place, the guy meets his young wife, Emmy, who works as a bartender. Later, at a dance with Ella, Dorigo refuses to be jealous of her for another man. They say that since he's going to war soon, it's better for her to get another lover. However, the girl does not want to part with him, which eventually forces Dorigo to propose to her. Later, at a meeting of writers in a bookstore, Dorigo meets Emmy again. During a short conversation with elements of obvious flirtation, the woman shows him her favorite poem, consisting of one line, "You're burning me up." The adult Dorigo's memories take him back to 1943. A freight train drags wagons full of young men, prisoners of war of the Japanese army, through the jungle. Men trapped in iron boxes rejoice at the rain, thanks to which they can get drunk. They are soon dropped off, as the rails have run out, and driven through the humid tropical jungle on foot. The destination is a prisoner of war camp under the leadership of Major Nakamura. Here, the prisoners are working for the glory of the emperor, laying a railway to the north. They have to furiously cut down trees and drag trunks aside to clear a path. Some of the prisoners, still optimistic, are working hard, although others are urging them not to make waves. Otherwise, they will raise the standard for everyone. While the rest of the soldiers are on vacation having fun staging Romeo and Juliet from memory, Dorigo wanders around the neighborhood. He stumbles upon another group of prisoners, exhausted by hellish labor and conditions, deprived of any hope for the future. In the 40s, the guy moves to his uncle's house for a while, where he pretends to see his wife Emmy for the first time. While the uncle is busy with important things, he sends his nephew and his wife to have fun in the city. Instead of going to the cinema, they fall into a pub where they drink and even dance. After returning home, the couple continues to socialize with drinking, music, and dancing. As a result, from the inflated romantic mood, the farewell almost ends with a kiss, but Dorigo pulls himself together in time and leaves. Remembering this as an adult, he writes the same line in his memoirs, "You're burning me up." Soon he is forced to attend a charity event organized by his wife Ella. Other important guests who are willing to donate money include Dorigo's colleague in medical practice Rick Mason and his wife Lynette. With the last Dorigo, as it turns out, cheating on his wife, their secret affair has been going on for quite a long time. Having lunch with her, the man again plunges into memories of the 40th year when he visited his uncle. One night, his bar was sold out, with lots of customers, lots of booze, and Emmy dancing on the bar. Excessive alcohol consumption makes the young Dorigo feel sick. He throws up right at the exit of the pub. After sending his nephew to sleep it off, Kit goes to his wife's bedroom after the restaurant closes. Dorigo, awake but not completely sober, listens in the hallway as they make love. In the morning, the whole family has breakfast, after which the young man and Emmy go for a walk to the beach. On the spot, the woman apologizes for yesterday, either for the noisy performance of marital duties or for the fact that the uncle almost got the guest drunk. Then, the young people have fun learning how to dance and swimming in the coastal waves. Dorigo is pulled out of his memories by another patient, to whom he appoints an urgent operation. Otherwise, the disease will kill her faster than age and natural causes. Shortly after, Ella is visited by Rick Mason. He says that Dorigo is cheating on her with his wife. Rick followed Lynette D'Amour. However, the doctor is not going to destroy the career of infallible Dr. Dorigo Evans and does not plan to publicly reveal the fact of adultery. However, this knowledge imposes some tension on the two surgeons. The situation is aggravated by the operation on an elderly patient, which was not as successful as we would like, although it still ended well. Dorigo also skips the opening of a new rehabilitation center for veterans, forcing Ella to give speeches there alone. He himself spends this time with Lunette, who admits that at such solemn events, people expect from him a story about the triumph of the human spirit in captivity, although Dorigo himself would most like to tell the ugly truth. In 2043, prisoners deprived of sanitation in a humid climate suffered from a variety of illnesses, including dysentery, fever, gangrene, and ulcers. Dorigo's colleague, nicknamed Rabbit, carefully sketched the symptoms of the disease in a notebook. Despite the deteriorating condition of the workers, the Japanese did not regret sending exhausted and sick people to the grueling work of paving the way. Despite Dorigo's medical objections, the prisoners worked hard at mining operations, hollowing a passage in the rock with picks. Although Major Nakamura was aware of the shortage of workers, his commander, Colonel Koto, ordered the use of a system of motivation for prisoners' physical violence and beatings. The guards do not shy away from visually showing the white gaijin how to beat the insufficiently efficient, forcing the prisoners to beat each other for greater efficiency. But even so, they stuck together. When one couldn't stand it and wanted to attack the guard with a rock, the other carefully took him aside so that no one would notice. Dorigo turns to Major Nakamura to convince him to provide medicine and water for the prisoners. This will speed up the paving of the way in the future. He promises to see what can be done. During the morning check, a guard beats up one of the prisoners because of an improperly made bed. Then follows another unbearable day at the quarry. Rabbit continues to make sketches of camp life at the risk of his life, while Dorigo treats the wounded as best he can. He teaches Rainbow's assistant not to remove leeches from rotting wounds because they eat dead flesh, stopping gangrene. One day, Colonel Koto and Major Nakamura are discussing over a cup of sake, Japan's leading role in Asia's struggle against European influence. The conversation ends with a discussion of beheading with a sword. Koto leads a subordinate to the prisoners, where he orders them to take the patient out of the cage. Putting him on his knees, the colonel explains to Nakamura how to chop off his head with one swing of the sword. He reassures the prisoner that this is just a theory. After taking out the blade, Koto wipes it with booze, after which he gets into the correct position and raises the sword in front of the whole camp. Mentally resigned, the prisoner begins to pray aloud. Angered by the unbroken spirit of the white man, the colonel sharply lowers the blade, cutting off the head in one motion. Digesting what they saw in their shacks, the prisoners cannot sleep and ask one to sing a song. To her sounds, Dorigo is immersed in memories of the day when he and Emmy swam on the beach. After getting out of the water, they got dressed, took off their wet underwear, and went home. On the way, the woman cut her foot on the barbed wire fence. Examining the wound, the young man could not resist and began to kiss her. Emmy, listening to her feelings, eventually pulled away and walked on. In Thai captivity, Dorigo examines a patient with an amputated leg. The gangrene goes further, so you need to cut off more. In preparation for the operation, the comrades take out a bone saw from the kitchen, after which they carefully fix the patient. There is no anesthesia. You will have to do it the old-fashioned way. After the first incision of soft tissues, the patient loses consciousness from pain shock. This allows the medical team to cut off the muscles and saw the bone, after which the Reinbull stitches the wound. When the patient regains consciousness, the men cannot contain their joy, but it won't last long. Suddenly, blood begins to flow from the severed artery. The attempt to stop the bleeding ended in failure, and the operated patient died from blood loss. Despite the setback, the rest of the prisoners in the camp appreciate and respect Dorigo. They even share the delicacies stolen from the Japanese with him as a sign of appreciation. However, the surgeon orders the supplies to be taken to the infirmary and divided among the patient. The elderly Dorigo is summoned to the Medical Ethics Commission. Someone complained about an operation in which he removed an extra tumor without the patient's consent. The man realizes that his colleague, Rick Mason, is behind the slur. After another operation, Dorigo confesses to Rick that he hates traitors, tactfully omitting insisting that he sleeps with his wife so that he does not have to classify himself as a hypocrite. Actually, lying in bed with Lynette, he remembers how one day he went with his uncle and Emmy to catch crabs on the beach. On that wonderful summer day, she and Keith had a nice chat, while Emmy modestly sat on the sidelines. Then, after splashing in the shallow water, the three of them returned home with the catch. There, taking advantage of the moment, the woman asks the young man what he is trying to achieve with his ostentatious friendship with his uncle. In 2089, a Japanese delegation came to Dorigo to present a collection of poems to Base and apologize for what he and his comrades had to go through in Japanese captivity. Their visit provokes another flashback. Grueling work at the quarry from dawn to dusk. But the doctor himself is exempt from physical labor. He looks after patients and mentors assistants. Soon, the comrades notice that the rabbit has become ill. He got sick. He is dragged to the infirmary, where Dorigo tries to cure him. But they both know that the chances are frankly slim. The only thing the dying person wants to do is finish the last drawing. Dorigo goes to the major to ask for at least some medicine. If workers die less often, the road will be built faster. In response, Nakamura talks about the poet Basio, who praised the Japanese spirit. It is thanks to this spirit that this road will be built, like the British Empire, which includes Australia, on the bones of those who are not citizens of this empire. In the past, Dorigo comes to the bar to see Sammy and invite her to swim on the beach. On the shore, they talk about their plans for the future. The woman asks if Ella knows where her boyfriend is now. After shopping, the couple returns home. Dorigo goes to take a shower, and Emmy returns to the bar. Rolling for courage, the woman rises to the young guy to indulge in adultery. In Thailand, when the rabbit died, Dorigo keeps his sketchbook. In the evening, they and a friend carry the body of the deceased away into the thicket to arrange a ceremonial burial by burning. In the 40s, Emmy and Dorigo enjoy a forbidden romance to the fullest. In the process, the woman confesses to her lover that she once became pregnant by her husband, but secretly had an abortion and told her husband that she had suffered a miscarriage. The uncle himself takes his nephew to the fields to show the land he has acquired. He wants to build a house for his wife here, in a quiet and picturesque place. The man does not know about the secret relationship between the two relatives, despite the fact that they spend too much time together. One day in a bar, Dorigo confesses to a woman that his vacation has come to an end. A few days later, he and the rest of the soldiers are sent to the war in the Pacific Ocean. From this news, Emmy breaks a plate in a fit of impotence, which Keith notices but does not focus on. Later, they go to visit their neighbors to play cards, drink, and socialize. During the conversation, the hostess gossips about a mutual friend who got caught cheating. Emmy stands up for the madame in question, blaming everything on sudden love. This moment is not lost on Keith. On the way home, he breaks the car to find out the relationship. The man admits that he guessed about his wife's relationship with her nephew, but now he wants her to admit it herself. Emmy lies to the last, denying everything, but thereby tacitly admitting that she will play the role of a diligent wife. Later, she calls her departed lover to break off relations with him over the phone. They have different fates, different vows, and different futures. Dorigo himself is at a fireworks party at the home of Ella's wealthy parents, who want to find a way for him to avoid being sent to war. However, the guy himself doesn't really want to be beholden to his future father-in-law, so he politely refuses. The adult Dorigo remembers this on the morning when Dela admits that she is aware of his betrayal. Rick told her everything. She says she's spending the night with a friend. The doctor himself recalls how he secretly received a letter addressed to him in a Thai camp, without knowing how his comrades were able to convey it to the addressee. However, there is no time to read the message. Major Nakamura calls the doctor to help him. Due to his addiction to morale-boosting drugs, his well-being leaves much to be desired. Dorigo paints in colors that it will only get worse. The Japanese need proper medical care, not artisanal methods. In the morning, the prisoners are sent to work. The path from the camp to the tunnel in the rocks is not close and not too easy. Frank, Dorigo's comrade appointed head of the squad, injures his leg on the rocks of a mountain river. Unable to go any further, he stays near the log to wait for the Japanese. When Colonel Koto appears, the prisoner mentally prepares to take his own life through beheading. However, the officer suddenly tells him to go to the infirmary. The colonel himself sets a new task for the major during the excavations to allocate 100 people to another site on the border where he still needs to get to. When Nakamura objects that people are weak and will stupidly die on the way, the senior asks his subordinate not to embarrass him in front of the emperor. Frank, crawling back to the camp with a wounded leg, meets two comrades who are shirking from work. They manage to slip away at the crossing. This is fraught with consequences. The The Major is informed that 2 people were absent from work, in addition to the wounded man. In order not to lose face in front of the colonel, Nakamura orders to investigate and punish the perpetrators right in front of the other prisoners. When Frank crawls to the infirmary, Dorigo notices him and, carrying him in his arms, treats his wounds. At that moment, a guard enters and takes the wounded man away. The Major ordered to ask the senior squad which of his men was phoning, since the workers themselves would not admit. The interrogation includes beatings by the guards of the senior. Dorigo asks Nakamura to spare his wounded friend, but the Major does not want to lose face in front of the colonel, so he orders him to continue the execution. The prisoner's bones are broken, then they beat him with sticks again. He screams at first, then just moans in pain in front of the ranks of silent comrades. When the prisoner almost loses consciousness, the guards stop beating him, but the Major, armed with a heavier stick, beats his subordinate himself. There was no order to stop the interrogation. The bully continues to stupidly beat on the lying body until dark. The rest of the prisoners were sent to sleep to the sound of thuds and soft moans. It was only when it started to rain that poor Frank found peace, drowning in a puddle, but without saying anything to his tormentors. When the Japanese left the body alone, Dorigo washed his comrade's corpse. Already at dawn, he took out the letter he had received earlier. It contains a newspaper article about the deaths of Uncle Kit and his wife, Emmy. The guy remembers how they hugged each other at sunset. The memory is the only thing he has left. Immediately after that, the Major gives the medic an order to select 100 people to cross the border on foot to a site 100 kilometers from the camp. Dorigo begs not to send them there, as it is certain death, to which the Major replies that this is why the doctor himself must choose them. Having reinforced the order with a couple of blows, the Japanese is waiting for execution. Dorigo selects those who still have shoes on their feet from their companions in misfortune. It will be easier for them to walk this path. After passing through the ranks of unhappy, exhausted people, he gains 100. Realizing that the trip is likely to be a one-way ticket, the selected ones take turns saying goodbye to the doctor without harboring a grudge against him. These memories become the cause of nightmares, which Lynette witnessed. The woman says she can no longer save him from the past, and they need to break up. In Thailand, prisoners of war and Japanese troops have completed the construction of the 415-kilometer Thai-Burmese railway. At the solemn ceremony, where, in addition to the Japanese soldiers, prisoners of war were lined up, Colonel Kodo drives the last wedge. The first steam locomotive starts up along the rails to the solemn music. Major Nakamura, unable to withstand the greatness of the moment and drug withdrawal, falls unconscious. The Poetics Council decides that Dorigo has not violated the rules and can return to practice. When he gets home, he remembers how he married Ellie after the war. He also drinks booze with his friends who survive captivity in a bar, after which he goes to a fish store to fulfill Frank's dream of being beaten to death, to free the fish waiting for imminent death from the aquarium and release them into the ocean. In 1946, in Singapore, the guard who beat Frank to death was found guilty of a war crime and executed by hanging. Major Nakamura is a fugitive from justice in Japan. He, like the 2 executed guards, was also put on the wanted list in this case. Looking at the ruins that survived the nuclear bombing, he goes in search of Colonel Kota, hiding in the countryside. They discuss the justice of such a claim. The colonel is sure that these were military losses, but the Major believes deep in his heart that this is not the case. Dorigo also visits Rabbit's wife to give her an album with his drawings. They form the basis of the book and the exhibition that the doctor is to open in 2089. In the morning, he reconciles with his wife, who admits that she has suspected all her life that she is her husband's number 2 after Emmy. He says that he once imagined her in a crowd of people, but it couldn't be true. The couple travel together to the opening of the Rabbit exhibition, dedicated to the horrors of Japanese captivity. Dorigo reads a speech to the audience about how not only their comrades remained in the jungle, but also parts of their souls. Before his meaningful gaze, instead of the guests, exhausted brothers in misfortune, who died on the cursed construction site, stand up. After the discovery, Ella tells her husband that Amy visited their house once when they were already married and had a child. She had kept it a secret all her life, although perhaps she should have confessed right away. Dorigo replies that it doesn't matter. But on the way home, the man remembers how, after returning from captivity, he accidentally met someone who looked like Emmy, a fleeting vision in a stormy stream of people, which disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Distracted by these thoughts, Dorigo drives to the intersection. Dodging the car from the side, he turns the steering wheel and the car rolls down the road, falling out of the window and dying in the rain. In the last moments of his fading life, a man imagines himself back in the Thai jungle, where he spent the worst years of his life. This is the end of the series.